Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Okay, it looks like we have a date, well, a supposed date of September 12th for the long-awaited iPhone event and, of course, expected Watch and Apple TV alongside that. Now, the reason that this is a strong rumour is because historically this kind of lines up, and apparently some carriers have supposedly been notified about this date. So this would then put pre-orders for the iPhones at September 15th and a release on September 22nd, all these dates, of course, being aligned to the US. Now, we're recording this the night of August 27th in Australia. And so probably by the time you're listening to this, if you're a day or two late, the event invite very well may already be out. So are you feeling this September 12th date here? Or?
Yeah, I think it probably lines up. Keep in mind that there'll probably be delays on shipping of the OLED model, but you know, they do have 7S and 7S Plus to get out, so it seems like it would make sense to me. And as you say, we sort of expect the invitation to go out about 2 weeks ahead, so that'll be in the next couple of days, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I always love just seeing the actual design of it, particularly with what they did with the past few ones, WWDC and the like. So this more sort of illustrative approach, I like that. So yeah, it's all definitely exciting. We've been talking about these two iPhones for so long, so it's kind of like a finally moment. But yeah, we'll just have to see. This week for sure, I'm expecting an invite, and there you go. I'm still quite anxious about the whole availability factor for the iPhone 8. So
yeah, I think
we'll see what happens.
If you weren't tied to a carrier, it would be a different story, because then you can sort of make sure you're there in the first couple of seconds to order it online. But with carriers, it's much more difficult. So I guess when you get your hands on it, you get your hands on it. It's kind of like one of those things.
It's just one of those things that I don't want to see someone else with one, like in public, before I have mine. Yeah,
that's how I was with the 7S Plus, well, the 7 Plus, but I only got mine in December, and I don't feel any worse for it now. And I've kind of just like adopted that for the iPad Pro. I had been saying that I'm more likely to get it after iOS 11. So I'm kind of slightly jealous that like you have one, but it's not the end of the world.
I'm certainly not going to cave and go the 7S, route just because of availability. Like I'm going to wait this one out for as long as it takes to get hold of it. So
yeah, you will regret doing that after like 2 weeks, I reckon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a lot to cover. We're going to kick it off with product perception as always. There are some new colours for the Beats Solo 3 headphones. We have Asphalt Grey, Brick Red, Break Blue, and Turf Green. I like all but one of those, with I think the Turf Green is just a little bit icky for me. But, I'm not in the market to be buying these anyway. Got the AirPods, perfectly happy with those. Do you like these colour additions?
Yeah, they're pretty cool, but at the price of Solo 3s, I'd say rather get the Bose Quiet Comforts, and at the, if you're after the convenience of W1 and that's a must, well, get AirPods, because everyone I know that has them loves them. So
yeah, cool. And now we're going to move on to similar to what happened with the HomePod firmware. There's been new details and videos and stuff found in the latest iOS 11 betas by both the same developers. And so, Nick, if you want to kick this one off regarding the HomePod setup.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, the HomePod setup is quite similar to the AirPods style. So it has like a pop-up card and a 3D render of the HomePod. So straight in, you can select your Siri language. So just as at launch, they'll have English for Australia, UK, and US, obviously those being the launch countries. The guy who was setting it up, Guilherme Rambo.
Guilherme.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm assuming because of the video that his normal Siri language is Spanish in Mexico, and it said it's not supported, but they'll give him a notification, update him when it is supported. So that was interesting. And then it asked for the last 4 digits of serial number for authentication. So that would be, I guess, similar to how on the Apple Watch, when you scan it to set it up, it kind of is like that 2-way authentication.
Yes. Yep.
I guess so. You can't just like set up your neighbor's HomePod with your with your details.
Yeah, exactly.
You can share your Wi-Fi settings from the iPhone. So I guess you've only had to set up one, and I've only had to set up one, but it's kind of similar on the Apple TV 4. I think I just tapped my phone on it, and it shared all of my settings over iCloud.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's pretty much one of those situations, and we know that going into iOS 11, it's going to be that sort of same a mixture of that and the Apple Watch pairing for setting up a new phone. So obviously you'll go through that when you do get your iPhone. Yeah, and then you can choose. I guess this is for people who have multiple homes. Like, I don't really know that many people with multiple homes. So it says my home, beach house, or cabin. So I mean, yeah, that's
it.
The
Sounds
dream,
like they're
right?
catering for the top end of town with that one.
But then it makes me wonder, like, if I'm supposed to be buying this, like, maybe I should rather be buying a second house. Anyway, side note. So then you choose which room it's in. So that's more likely to affect me. Given that I'd said I'd probably go with a bedroom and a dining room one. So it does have a preset there. Yeah, I had considered one for a bathroom. And given that was one of the options, I think that would be, they're obviously saying it could hold up to the steam, which is quite good. And then that's really it. And then it gives you a bunch of Siri options or Siri queries to try out. And yeah, it looks pretty seamless, pretty good.
Yeah, and I was saying also, Guilherme also pointed out that within iOS 11 now, this style of setup also applies for Apple TV and whole house audio, which I had never previously heard of that.
Yeah, you kind of got to wonder if that's something that will really come out, or if that's something that's buried for later, or something that's canned. So I guess we'll see more with this keynote, but it might be something to do with AirPlay 2, maybe.
Yeah. AirPlay 2 speakers all speaking to each other and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, and Guilherme also then found 2 videos regarding. As previous, it doesn't specify iPhone 8, but these are kind of hinting at videos related to an iPhone without a physical home button. So these are regarding Control Center and a new app switcher. So the first video has like pull down lock screen, and if you go from left to right, it shows the widgets as normal. But then if you go from right to left, it shows the Control Center instead of the camera. And then the second video, basically, then this with Control Center being pushed over at the right, this then allows for a swipe up from the bottom to invoke the app switcher, which that factor of it I love. Just anything to make app switching quicker than like you. I mean, for me, I still have the 6S, so I've got the physical double press of the button. For you, with your style of home button, it's probably even less. It's much easier to do, like less pressure you have to apply. And so I've always wanted just something that's like when you double tap the home button for the reachability. I've always wanted to have that as my way to invoke app switcher instead. But to swipe up from the bottom would be great. But then this is kind of getting to that territory of iOS 11 just becoming confusing. It's like, well, does that apply only to this new physical buttonless iPhone, the iPhone 8? How's that going to go in comparison to someone, switching from what they've always known with, just swiping up for the control center. Yeah, I know. I see both positives and negatives with this. What did you think of this video?
I think I don't really think it's going to end up happening, but I would like some consistency between how multitasking works on the iPad and the iPhone. I know I'd been calling for consistency with notifications for so long, and this just seems like it might eventually be the next thing that I harp on about, which, there's a home button on my iPad, and I can either double press or I can swipe up from the bottom. And since I can swipe up from the bottom, I'm doing it all the time, and it's just so much more natural. It kind of just works. And there's also the 5-finger pinch or 4-finger swipe up that also works with that. And I just never use those gestures.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think, because I can see the reason for this. Like this video, we'll just say the iPhone 8 has no physical button, therefore no double press is possible. If it's the virtual home button, it would be essentially treated like a double tap, but then what happens to reachability? And it's just, to me, it's like whatever solution they come up with, I hope that it then applies to just for all iPhones. Because to have two different ways of doing it between, this style of iPhone and then your 7S and everything that precedes that, it just seems even more unbalanced to me. Now, both of these videos very well may not indicate final software changes. These are more like prototypes. So yeah, as I said, I really dig the idea of a swipe up app switcher, but it's like, well, what does that sacrifice? And then putting the control center then at the right is kind of like a regression. So it's going to be interesting. We'll find out all about this in, 2.5 weeks when the supposed event date of September 12th. So yeah, it was an interesting one. I really sort of don't know what's going to happen with it.
Yeah, you got to wonder if Apple's going to somehow clamp down on what people can dig through in the code and pick out.
I know. This is going to be, yeah. If they already doubled down, then they're going to have to just quadruple down from now or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, lastly, speaking of digging through betas, the latest watch beta has popped up a whole new list of watch workouts. So
this is something you really don't think about what's lacking until you see all of the new things that they could add. So I'll just cherry pick a few, like basketball, cricket, cycling, downhill skiing, golf, gymnastics. I didn't see gym itself there, so that would still be, I guess, an other, and jump rope and kickboxing. So this is, I've cherry picked a few from a very long list. So it's definitely something that if you are looking for some more kinds of workouts, that you should check out what you can expect. So it's pretty cool, I think.
I just love how, as we previously mentioned, Apple are clearly ahead in the smartwatch space, and they're wanting to solidify that position. They're certainly not just thinking, oh yeah, no, we're all good, we'll just sort of won't really touch it for a couple of years. They're constantly improving and updating it. So yeah, I mean, I love this sort of stuff. Not that I'm going to be doing lacrosse and fishing and curling, but for people that do, it is there.
Yeah, I have a friend who wanted to get her husband an Apple Watch for surfing, just because he goes out and doesn't have his phone. And when that was still the case, that I still had the Apple Watch original, but now you can see with them adding LTE radios and surfing workout. I think it was I think that was noticed a while ago, or they had it at the keynote with the kind of things you can do for surfing and stuff. I can see more and more situations where these are then just bought as presents or, just on a whim. Whereas now you kind of have, obviously we knew that as being early adopters, but you can just see a case where, as you say, Apple's solidifying it and just making it everybody's watch.
Yep, definitely. And speaking of the watch, Series 3, which is looking like a very strong contender to appear in this September event. We have two parts to cover with this: the idea of a eSIM rather than a physical SIM, and no phone calling. So do you want to kind of run off some details about these?
Yeah, I will say that I'd always thought that the LTE would require an eSIM. I never really thought that it would have like a physical SIM. So this comes as no surprise, but there's recently been mentions of eSIM, which is just a digital little thing inside unlike the board on the logic board, so it's not anything you ever put in or take out, and they'll roll it out with the LTE watch, or I guess we think it will be called Series 3, and that would save space so they don't have to have a drawer and just be less of a hassle. So my thoughts on...
Particularly with the waterproofing too.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I guess I kind of just see this as an obvious thing. What are your thoughts?
That seems like a great move to me. I'm thinking more on terms of how does this work with carriers? How does this work with data plans? Is there any advantage to not having, to having an eSIM that it can be linked somehow to an existing plan you have? Like, could you use data from your current phone plan and therefore there's no extra cost? Or could it be seen as an optional add-on with your carrier to avoid you having a separate, physical SIM with a separate number, etc. Design-wise, waterproof, everything, that makes sense. But yeah, that's sort of the kind of advantages I'm seeing of this eSIM. I'm new to the whole eSIM thing. I've never had a device with one before, so this would definitely be an educational experience. So
yeah, it's different because a lot of the thoughts on this come from US and UK, where they have a completely different model to us in sort of South Africa, where our iPads, for example, would have their separate plan, but it's not really linked back to the original one with an extra X per month that you're being charged. So I could see it as either being I can still see there being a prepaid option for us, or just using your normal data plan, but still being linked to original numbers. So I don't really see it as being an extra cost of $5 a month. I don't see it happening. I mean, I guess they would have to make their money back, but the amount of data it uses would surely be minimal. So they surely could take it off your original plan.
Yeah, to me, the biggest spanner in the works for that whole thing is that whole separate number. It's that's just going to make it completely confusing, particularly when it comes to anything regarding phone calling and that. Yeah, which is the next part.
I'll quickly just run that off because I have some thoughts on this that are not KGI approved, but It's said to offer an LTE connection for data, but no 3G connection for phone calls. Keeping in mind that voice over LTE exists, so I'll get into that a little bit later. But given the LTE radio, you could have voice over IP services like Skype, FaceTime audio, that sort of thing, and you can still make calls when paired with the iPhone as you currently can. So, given one of the tentpole features of the original watch was that you could make calls from it, right? Yes, it had to be linked, but they saw that as a key thing to mention, was that you could make phone calls from your wrist, and Tim Cook was really excited about it. Now, I do not see any regression happening there, and it would make absolutely no sense. They've made so much progress with handoff and the ability to leave your phone at home depending on what carrier you're on, but you can leave your phone technically and get forwarded your your text messages to other devices, and in some cases phone calls. So I don't see why that wouldn't just transfer over. If you just leave your phone at home, say, or in the car, it would just send your phone actually takes the call, but then just forwards the audio forwards and backwards via data, and I'm pretty sure that that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, it's good that you've kind of explained that, because the whole thing was, I myself, being, far more tech savvy, was getting a bit muddled up with all of this, let alone someone out there that's going to be trying, sold the idea of this watch that can work, independent of the phone. And I can, if there was just a straight up cut off of, no, you can't make phone calls with it when you're out and about without your phone on you, that's just going to be so confusing, such a killer for this. Like people wanted this, you know. It's like we want to kind of break the watch away from its dependency on the iPhone, and it's just like, or this particularly involving, you know, emergency calls and stuff. Like you go out for your hike or whatever, you're out, you know, further out in an area that's, you know, however many X minutes drive away from town. And it's just kind of like you would want to be able to receive emergency calls. Like it's just a no-brainer. So, and because they're so more and more of the stuff that Apple have been doing with the software involving emergencies, it's just like it completely makes no sense not to have to just strip that call functionality. So how you've explained it as a way that it forwards it over that data connection, that certainly sounds very plausible.
Yeah, I would just be surprised if Apple didn't come up with this, and I would also wonder when would then be the right time for them to implement it. To me, it just makes absolutely no sense, and I'm just gonna suggest that it's a software side thing that they could do, and so you know, it doesn't necessarily have to leak. Whereas, yes, maybe the radio itself is not capable of having its own phone number or whatever case, you know, on the hardware side it is. But, you know, I don't think that at the end of the day that relates not being able to make a standard audio call over your watch. So, yep.
Yeah, I think it was a case of just KGI seeing the components and then getting the wrong perception of what it actually means.
Yep.
And therefore, you know, it caused this huge alarm. Everyone's like, oh, my, you know, this LTE watch is going to suck, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know, calm down for a sec. Let's think about this logically and as you've explained it. So, yes, I would be very, very extremely surprised and disappointed if there was no call functionality with the watch sans the phone. So, all right. We're going to move on to the water cooler. And yeah, continuing on our trip of iOS 11, there were, of course, and we did share them on our accounts, new icons with the latest betas. Now, there are technically 3, but 2 are much more of a major change. So first one is just the clock. They made it bolder, so yeah, it's cool. But we're going to start on with the less offensive one, if I put it that way, is the maps. So basically, they redesigned the maps icon. They included the Apple Park shape. They made the arrow larger. And I think possibly they could drop the little Route 280 sign badge, but it's existed for ages, so it's fine. I guess it was more just because it's not universally applicable, but, you know, it's relative to that area. And so, yeah, I think overall it's an improvement. Just they've kind of enlarged everything and, yeah, like the little inclusion of Apple Park. So what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I actually quite like it. Originally, it was so different that it confused my eyes. I was like, oh, I don't know. And then it's grown on me now. So yeah, I quite like it.
I like how the size of that quarter of the Apple Park, like that curve, is the same as like the curved corner size of the actual whole app icon shape.
Yep.
And just little details like that, and the fact of where the badge sits, like the curve of the badge sits nicely inside, you know, with the edge of the actual app icon shape too. So just little things like that I appreciate. And of course, the App Store icon. So as I said, check this out on our accounts if you haven't already. It's received mostly negative reaction online. Now the rounded edged stick-like components that make up this graphic have been referred to as breadsticks, a TP, Frankfurts, popsicle sticks, and all this sort of stuff is just, basically I think the majority of people that saw it, they just had this oh no reaction to it, and now for me, I'm getting used to it. I think the plus of it is the use of negative space for shadows. I like that kind of creative aspect to it. I like the simplicity. I like the fact that the 3 components do actually overlap. It's like that three-way overlap, whereas previously it was like the two, the pencil and the brush were sitting on top of the ruler. So that's cool. It ties in with the new iTunes store, kind of like rounded corner design style with that star shape. Now, the issue that you and I both agree on is that it doesn't really represent what the App Store is. It's just kind of become this abstract shape that could sort of really mean anything, and the only reason it still works is because everyone is so familiar with the A shape and the blue background. So prior to this most recent change, the iOS 11 betas nailed it. They essentially had the App Store icon that we know and love from iOS 10, but they just got rid of the circle. And so they just simplified it. That was perfect. And then they pulled this one out. So how are you feeling about it now?
Just having a look at it, so I've been staring at it intently while you've sort of been describing it. And I will say, not coming from a design background, I didn't really fully appreciate or understand the use of negative space for shadows, but like looking at it really close up, I can understand that, and it looks pretty cool. The one thing I will say is that, again, just staring at it so much, I'm glad that they actually are doing something different and sort of refreshing all of these app icons, because just looking at like iOS 1 to 6, nothing ever changed, and then everything changed with iOS 7, and it seems like they've not been allowing that to happen anymore. We've seen different designs in the notifications, in Control Center, in Notification Center, on the app icons throughout each of these major releases. And so I'm kind of happy to see that happen. What this reminds me of was the Instagram icon change. It's kind of like, at first everyone just thought it was horrendous, and now, it's now iconically Instagram, and sure, it doesn't portray what the App Store is, but it's probably one of the first apps someone will ever use on their iPhone, so they'll kind of associate this with it anyway.
Yeah, I think the thing for me, I'm agreeing with all of that. I think the thing for me that I'm actually not liking about it is not so much the fact that it isn't made up of a paintbrush and pencil, etc., because we've seen it for so many years that we know what that is. I think it's more just the way that the rounded edge ends on these stick shapes. Just I think just with how they overlap, it's like it's either too little or too much. Do you know what I mean? Like the way that you can just see that kind of like X-shaped form on each corner of this triangle, and it's just. I think, like, I look at it, when I look at it in screenshots, like in an app layout, when it's amongst other apps, I actually quite like it. I'm like, yeah, cool. It's not, particularly because it's usually positioned next to that new iTunes store icon. So I was like, yeah, that works. But it's more just, I think of that initial reaction. I was just like, oh, like I certainly wasn't as negative on it, I think, as you were initially. Because I said, oh, what do you think of this new icon? You're like, ghastly. So,
well, that is exactly what I thought originally, and now I'm just like forcing myself to like it.
To like it, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't really know what they could do in terms of retaining that shape, but make it look like objects. I mean, that might make it worse. Do you know what I mean? So, anyway, just if anyone wants to, you can jump on our site, contact us, let us know what you think, comment on our social posts. That'd be good to know.
They could have like an app within an app, like a little app store, like a little app icon within the app icon, or a little homepage within the app icon, and that would be iconically appy. But yeah, there's a reason. Yes. There's a reason why I'm not a designer. So if you can't imagine what they could do to represent it, then you know that I can't. Other than putting little apps in
I think if I was sitting down in a team, most likely, obviously have a team around this sort of stuff. I could, but just right on the spot, nothing springs to mind. But I'd like to see what other ones they come up with. Other concepts in terms of let's refresh this App Store icon.
Yeah.
It's just interesting how it came so late in the betas as well. Okay, so we're going to move on to Deal Down Under and have two interesting little Australia-specific bits of info here. So McDonald's did a promotion about their mobile ordering app in Australia. They've kind of like revamped and giving it a whole new campaign. Now, they in the promotion of this, they used a little step-by-step guide of, like 3 phones next to each other. This is where you start, and this is when you move. This is how you add your order, and this is how you, essentially like submit your order. But what they did is they used the Benjamin Geskin iPhone 8 mock-up images as the phone to put the screenshots on. Now, the signal indicator in these are the dots and not the iOS 11 bars. So I would more likely say this is accidental, kind of like whatever designer was in charge of it just kind of wanted a high-res, modern iPhone image to use to put the screenshot within. And basically, those Benjamin Geskin ones were available. They were high-res, and he grabbed them. So, I mean, is this pretty much what you're thinking would have happened? Just kind of this accidental...
Absolutely. I think it's just someone...
acquiring of assets.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's just like the guy doesn't really keep up to date with the iPhone. Like, what is the new one? What is real? What is not? And kind of just picked a really, like, modern-looking one. I don't think there's anything really more to it other than a screw-up.
Yeah, a similar sort of thing happened, but in terms of, like, an old way, where when I had that coverage with my local paper about the beach wallpaper and the front cover of the, they had the picture of the 2 photographers, and then they'd obviously mocked up the wallpaper within an iPhone image, and the iPhone that they grabbed off the internet somewhere was an iPhone 4S. So, you know what I mean? I think it's just kind of a case of, oh, quick, let's just grab something. Yeah, that's good. So there you go. And now we also have, which was a surprise to me, I saw it pop up as a little promotion on Facebook, was JB Hi-Fi currently running a competition for the Destiny 2 video game. So with this, there are 2 prizes. You can win a Mega Bloks dropship, which is obviously, the dropship is something from the game. But there's also a Destiny 2 edition Apple Watch. I'm pretty sure it's a Series 1. So the configuration with this is the aluminium gold body, midnight blue band, and it's got the Destiny 2 logo imprinted on the band. And the watch box also has the Destiny 2 logo on the side. So this is, of course, the first time I've seen any sort of cross-promotion outside of your Nike and Hermes. So because it's a game time, this kind of gives me more excitement and hope for the idea when you planted in my head of the Nintendo-themed bands. But have you even seen this pop up at all? And did you, like, how do you think they would have gone about it? Would they have had to have worked, like, I'm sure Apple wouldn't have, put much effort into being like, you can just add your imprint to our band in the box.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I actually haven't seen it, so I can't really comment too much on what I think would have happened there. It kind of seems like a funny add-on of branding, because I don't really see like a connection between the game and an Apple Watch, so it's kind of just weird promotion in my mind.
It almost seems like to me that they've just got stock of these Apple Watches and then they've just added their imprint after the fact, unpackaged all these watches and then just printed their own box.
Yeah.
But then I'm kind of like, well, what about the legalities of that? So, it's an interesting one. If anyone is a keen, player of that series of game and you want to grab yourself a watch at the same time, then definitely into that competition. I think it runs till the end of September. So JB Hi-Fi, just check it out. Right, now we're going to move on to Uniquely Apple. Planet of the Apps Series 1 has wrapped up. For a second there, I thought it had finished at 8 episodes, but it was 10 episodes. So, I just want to get your feedback, Nick, on, because we've sort of talked about it back and forth, but I'll kind of want to give like a bit of a holistic view on it, in terms of just the structure of the episodes, the judges, if you had a favorite app, and are you expecting a season 2 to come out?
I'm not expecting a season 2 to start off with that one. Just that, I mean, I wouldn't mind another season 2. So yeah, when I think about another season, i.e. season 2, when I think of the episode structure, it kind of, they had always said it was going to be the yes/no phase, some incubation, and then pitching to the VC, right? And I just don't think that they were weighted correctly. They kind of weighted a third with this like bit too long on the debate and or the presentation for some money, and a bit too long in the sort of like yes/no phase. And I never really felt like you really got a sense of what they did at the incubation phase. So it's kind of, for me, that was always going to be the most interesting part. I imagined a lot more like mentoring, apps that were in a lot earlier development stages. These were kind of like already apps on the App Store. So I didn't really see for me, it was just at the wrong level, like compared to what I thought it was going to be. And then, like, I mean, overall, yeah, sure, I loved it and I'd watch it again. Like, it's just cool to see some reality TV about apps. My favorite judge probably has to be will.i.am. He's an absolute nutter, but he has like the best ideas. He is just crazy. I remember there was one workout app where the guy gamified working out with a little like pet fox, like a bit.
Yes, yeah.
It's like a Tamagotchi plus. I mean, I don't know who listens if even knows what a Tamagotchi was. It was like a little digital
yes.
Pet
Yep.
dinosaur. Anyway, and
yeah, we had our Tamagotchis where you had to go in class and you had to submit all your Tamagotchis into like this special box for the teacher to put aside during the lesson because everyone was using them.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, it was kind of like that, and then will.i.am is like going through ideas, and he's like, "Can it battle? I need it to battle. Can it speak to me?" Like he was going from like not even coherent thoughts that had a string between them, and they were just absolutely not even rated. He's like, "Can it speak to me?" And then the guy was like, "Oh, actually, Apple just something about Siri," because he was going to say that you could like ask Siri to start a workout through his like app, and will.i.am was like, no, not Siri. Can it speak to me? I was like, what this is a workout fox. Why does it need to battle and why does it need to speak to you? But anyway, so for me, he did the most in getting these people to have like, think outside the box and add some features and keep relevant and stuff. Because a lot of apps sort of have to reinvent themselves over time. So that was cool. And then like my worst judge was definitely Gwyneth, who five out of 6 times would be like, I can't do anything to help you, so I'm going to let someone else help you. It's like, why are you there if you have no confidence in your ability to actually help people? Like, it's just stupid. So, yeah.
I'm pretty sure only a couple of the people she took on, I actually felt like she kind of added, to their app or helped them, think in a different way during that incubation period. But mostly it just, I don't know. She's just, I think by default, she just kind of like annoys me anyway. I don't really rate her much as an actor. And I don't know, she just has this real like, I can't be bothered vibe, about her. But I don't know what it is, but, and that, like, I'm not, okay, obviously I'm no fashionista or anything, and she's heavily involved in that. But every time they're doing that VC pitch and she rocked up looking like a bean, just like green from head to toe. I was just like,
Speaking of that, like that actually kind of irritated me that they made it impossible to tell the timeline because they were always dressed in the same clothes.
Always wearing the same clothes.
Yeah, and then it's like,
I was going to point that out.
To me, that was a bit odd and just kind of lacked a bit of a personal feel. Like, show that there's been a time difference, that yes, not everyone did it on the same day, or like, to me that just lacked like a bit of humanity, and that was a bit silly. Like, even the guys from Lightspeed Venture Capital were also wearing the same clothes. I didn't like that, but yeah, Gary Vaynerchuk is also really, really, really annoying. Like, he thinks the world revolves around him, and he's like a marketing genius. Like, sure, he's a millionaire in the marketing world, but like, I don't know, anyone can tell someone, oh, you got to really be careful that Apple and Google don't copy your feature because they can easily do that. Like, okay, sure.
I reckon some of the editing was funny though, because it has that classic reality show, like people's what they're saying, just something gets cut off. And there was one bit where they're talking about I think it was one of the more recent episodes where that guy was like, storing all those bits of information for the future or whatever. And it's between Jess, Alba, and Gwyneth, and she's like, I'd love to be able to like store, I think this app is great for like storing little nuggets of information. And then it suddenly like switches to like Gwyneth. She's like, just nuggets. And then it just like cuts off to the incubation period. It was just so random. I just burst out laughing because I'm like, can imagine just taking that little snippet as a meme just over and over again. It's like, like some sort of McDonald's thing. That feel when you get to McDonald's at midnight, just nuggets. Like,
yeah,
it was, it was just some of that editing was kind of typical of that type of show. And I was a bit disappointed to see that, but yeah, I pretty much agree with most of what you said. I went in thinking that Will.i.am was going to be the annoying one, but he wasn't. And that Gary just kind of came off as a bit of a dick, really. So, and I thought Jess was pretty good with like, the people that she took on. Especially that one where she took on those guys and she really kind of like questioned them, like, you're not taking this seriously.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good one because they just seemed to, they were sort of joking around a bit too much. So yeah, I think I was excited enough to want to watch it each week. I still think there's something in my idea of some sort of notification revolving new video, episodes and stuff within Apple Music. But I don't think it deserves quite the backlash that people have given it. People are like, oh, it's the most horrible show. This is this the most that Apple can offer in the original content space? I'm just like, it is what it is. Like, I already had my expectations at a lower level, being not overly fond of reality shows, but I actually quite liked it. I just thought, that incubation period was the biggest waste for me. Like, they just could have done so much more with that.
Absolutely.
It just seemed to be like they discussed a couple ideas and then it's like, 6 weeks ago, and here's your VC pitch.
I think the other thing worth noting is that the show was essentially free, right? Like, if you have Apple Music, you don't have it for Planet of the Apps, and if you it's a music streaming service and you got like a show that you either love or you hate, but it's not like something you actually paid money for, because it's just not like you sitting there. You can't go back to Apple and be like, look, I've come here for Planet of the Apps and I've been served this and I paid $9. Like, I just don't think that anyone's going to think that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. So that's kind of our take on Planet of the Apps. Favorite app, just before we wrap it up, it's there was certainly some that I really liked. I liked the people, like the developers. I liked their cause behind certain things. But then what you'd find is then when it came to the incubation and the pitch, the other side of their personality came out, and they were kind of like, a lot of people seemed too hell-bent on sticking to their original plan. And I certainly appreciate people having a vision and that, but in some cases it's like they didn't want to take on what these other professionals were telling them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you should just do whatever people tell you to do, but I found that a bit frustrating. Like, you had that one guy with that Subway talent thing, and he came on, and I was like, oh yeah, like he came from the streets, blah blah, and all stuff. I was like, okay, yeah, this is good. And then he just really just stuck his heels in, and he was kind of like, yeah, this is worth $1 billion, and he just didn't want to budge. And I felt like telling him, I'm like, come on, man, you're not going to get anywhere being like that.
Yeah, he got offered, like, was it $200,000 or $100,000? It's like, you've put in like less than a year's work. That's American dollars. Like, your app is not going to change the world. So kind of take it and move on and do something different. I don't know. That was my favorite app was like that young sort of like Russian guy and girl. They made the like celebrity chat app where it would aggregate and rank the questions that they were being asked, and then like the celebrity could actually reply, but it would go out to everything like that question, which was really. I like the sort of like machine learning side of that. And then, so I downloaded it, and it's kind of like all of these, there's an app, it's like a karaoke app, like some sort of singing app. I don't know what it is. It's like a kids like it. And it's kind of got like these mini celebrities for just that app. It's kind of like if Instagram models, but for singing, had this, they were mainly using it. So it kind of was like, oh, it's Musical.ly. Musical.ly is the app that I'm thinking of. And it's kind of only had Musical.ly stars. And it's like, oh, okay, I don't know any of these people. I'm never going to care about them. So I don't really want to like send them questions. But I love the like back end of it.
The premise of it.
Yeah. Because like sometimes you will like tweet a celebrity and then, get missed or something like that. And here you, like if you have a genuine question, you get it answered. And if you're just like trying to hit on them, you're never going to get it answered anyway. So it kind of like gives them the important stuff also.
I think one of my favorite parts of the show was the ones that were like the youngest developers, that they just like went out there and they had the balls to kind of like give it a shot. And you could see some of them were just like clearly nervous and hadn't obviously spoken on this big sort of studio platform before. And I was just like, good on you. Like it was awesome to just see them just, while they may have only been working on their app for, 6 months or a year or whatever, they gave it a shot. And it was just good to see that sort of talent that was coming out of, their university dorm sort of thing. Like they were studying at the same time. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. There was I like the younger developers too. It was cool.
Cool. Okay, and then we're just going to quickly touch on Carpool Karaoke. So that's just started pretty much as soon as Planet of the Apps finished. Do you find yourself you have any urge to watch it? Do you think the show has any longevity? And then finally, what do you think of the host, James Corden?
I've watched 5 of the 6 episodes. I think there's 6, yeah. I've only not watched the one with Ariana Grande. And it's pretty cool. I've enjoyed it. Not always paying 100% attention. It's pretty cool. I reckon there'll be like maybe 1 or 2 more sort of seasons or groupings of episodes, but it's certainly not like a season 12 Grey's Anatomy something. Like James Corden is funny, but like in the scripted things is a bit too lame. Yeah. But like he does. Yeah. I do prefer the episodes where he's in it because he just is more like, I don't know, he can hold it together a bit better. Yeah. But I love the way that like, I don't know if you've watched too much of it, but the one where like Will Smith sort of like just ghosted him. He was like, yeah, I'll be right there, and just flew away. Like, yeah, it's scripted as hell, but just the way like Will Smith was just giving him a look like, you crazy man, was like just so normal. Yeah. So it was cool.
I did like the bit where he just jumped out to crashed that people's wedding.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. But I started watching it and I was just kind of like, even though it started off with the Will Smith episode and I thought, Will Smith's a cool guy, and I was kind of struggling to watch it. I just didn't really have much like drive to kind of sort of stick with it. And then I was like, okay, no, I'm being a bit unfair on it. So I gave it more of a chance. And then I got a few laughs out of it, but I think it's more just the bits that are just too scripted are a bit cringy. But it's certainly, I can see how it caters for a wide audience. There'll be people that will watch certain episodes because of certain celebrities. I've only watched the first one so far, so there's still plenty more to catch up on. And they're not too long too, so that's good. And it's essentially what I thought it'd be. It's just kind of, quick sort of watch. It essentially could be kind of like background noise or whatever. As you said, you don't have to pay too much attention to it. So there you go. And then I just think finally in this space of talking about Apple's original content, there's been some sort of announcement regarding what they're doing over the next year.
Yeah, they're investing $1 billion in original content. So HBO spent $2 billion in the last year and Netflix spent $6 billion. So still small compared to like the bigger guys, but I mean, it is their first sort of foray into it. So they going for 10 new shows, and they had hired 2 Sony veterans in June, which started this month, or who started this month. So yeah, I think there's still a lot to come for their programming. Obviously, they battled to get their streaming service together, and so they sort of going this route, and good luck to them. They've got plenty of money that, if they can do it and succeed, great, and if they do it and fail, it's not the end of the world. I'm keen to see whatever happens.
I'm still keen to see that idea of Eddie Q kind of wanting a Game of Thrones level quality show, and what would that be? As you said, they got those 2 Sony veterans involved, so I certainly think it's going to be far beyond this Planet of the Apps carpool realm. So yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting, and they've always quietly released the specific to obviously the tie to Apple Music, these music documentaries and that, so they kind of got that stuff ticking along too, which is good for fans of whatever artists they're covering. So yeah, we'll be sure to let you know when a big show arrives. And then just going to quickly cover some new adverts, some educational how-tos regarding iPad. So what's this series?
Yeah, it's a bit early, but I've been saying from the beginning that it's a good idea to wait for iOS 11 to get the new iPad, and Apple sort of seems to agree with me, because they've released 6 1-minute long ads, or rather how-to videos with a colored background, objects and the iPad, and some hands and arms and some narration, and like it kind of sounds disjointed like that because it is. They'll have a randomly placed apple, or be like, you need an iPad and an apple, or like an iPad and a cupcake. I can't remember exactly what it was. And then the cupcake was never ever used or mentioned again. It was just like, what the hell? But yes, anyway, so they cover how to manage files, which has been amazing. It's just like I said last time that I'm, doing a lot of admin at the moment, and it's just having that file system. Yes, people asked for it when the iPad was launched, and we're like, well, you don't really need it, but just what you can do is amazing. The new dock, which again is just great, covers multitasking, and the new sort of animation for multitasking in the latest beta is awesome. You can shows how to scan and sign documents. So one of the things that I didn't actually realize was that when you scan it in Notes, it actually scans as like its own little file that it keeps within your notes. So you can then sign it. So you can mark up, you can export as PDF, you can save to other things. So you can actually share it, just that file. It's still within part of a note. So it's cool, because then you can just share that. And my original thing was that I'm not going to delete Scanner Pro because, it's all stuck within the note. Not true. Shows how you can mark up with pencil, and then multi-touch using 2 hands at once, which is also pretty cool with drag and drop and some of the multitasking features. So yeah, they were cool, but they reminded me of the Apple Watch. Before the Apple Watch was launched, they sort of had to give a learning curve, and it seems like they've realized they probably should do that now to help people learn.
Yeah, I thought for that factor it's good, and also it was, for me, it was just kind of like a refresher, because I'm not running the betas, and that I just sort of watched through the ad series. I was like, oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, of course, this exists for this, and that's what you can do. And then that got me psyched. I've always been psyched for iOS 11, but particularly I'm just hanging out with my iPad Pro for the actual launch to come out and to do the official update. So still holding back from the betas there, but I thought it was good. It was just, to me, very similar to the D-brand skin how-to videos, even the lady's voice, the way it's like, what you'll need is a blah, 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 blah. And then just kind of like this, the way it's laid out. And then it does one of the videos, it does a little reverse, sort of tape effect, which D-brand skin videos do too. So it was very familiar for me. But yeah, it certainly serves its purpose. And something that I also noticed with it is, it's actually quite interesting that what I like is that it is an actual iPad being used in the video. Like, it's not like they animated it, because you can actually see, particularly with the Files app one, when they kind of zoom in, you can actually see how the screen is a little bit hard to see on the advert, because of the brightness against the camera. So I thought just that little bit of realism too. Like, it wasn't, plenty of ads obviously try and fake stuff. And yeah, I thought it was great that they were legitimately using the iPad. So And finally, I'm going to finish this off with a bit of appetizers news. Anyone fans of the highly popular fighting game series Tekken, rejoice because it is coming to iOS. So, of course, Lance, who was a guest on here not too long ago, he's a huge Tekken fan too. And before I kind of peel off some details of this, did you ever get into this series?
Oh yeah, big time. When I was a kid, Tekken 2, Tekken 3, Tekken 4. Yeah, absolutely loved it. So awesome.
This was one of my kind of guilty pleasures because I was like the hardcore Nintendo guy, and I was like, oh no way, I'm gonna, and then I go around my mate's place. They got a Sony and they had Tekken, and I got right into that. So I definitely did enjoy that. And I've always kind of, while I don't own a PlayStation or anything, I've always been interested to see how the series has progressed and people kind of just discussing it. So in terms of what you get with the iOS version, you get over 100 characters. There is a story mode with teams of 3. There's a new enemy called Revenant. There's a dojo mode to challenge your friends. And now this is currently available for free in the Canadian App Store. So they've kind of done a soft launch with it to test out. So they're really hoping for a international release very soon after that. Now, the maker, Bandai Namco, says if you pre-register for it, then they'll unlock more and more special bonuses, so a bit of an incentive there. As I said, no specific date for the Australian launch, but I'd definitely be keen. So I always like the fact that when you get these kind of bigger franchises doing an effort for mobile. Obviously, I was very excited with the Mario release, and we did mention previously about Zelda coming. So this would be something to kind of get me a bit back into the mobile gaming for a bit. So there you go. Do you think you'll give it a go when it comes out?
Absolutely. I'm keen, as you say. Like, I need something to get me back into mobile gaming. Pretty much the only game I've been playing on my iPad has been called Flip Diving. I once saw an interview with the rapper Macklemore, and he kind of just said that's the game he plays on his iPhone. And then since then, I've been kind of obsessed with playing this little diving guy on my iPad, and I really need something a bit better than that. And yeah, train gaming is no better, so Tekken, bring it on.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just one of those things that there are plenty of kind of more in-depth games, but for me it's just the time factor. So it'd be cool to just jump in, like I did with Mario, jump into Tekken for a bit, have a few rounds and then put it down, and that sort of casual style. So that looks pretty good. Of course, that's brought us to the end of episode 34, made up of all sorts of different topics that we've covered. And of course, if anyone would like to follow us on social media, where can they find us?
You can find us on Instagram at @AppleSlicePodcast, on Twitter at @AppleSliceAU, and on Facebook.com/AppleSlicePodcast.
And of course, if you haven't subscribed already and you want to get more of these episodes as they come out, just search Apple Slice in your podcast player. We try to make ourselves available wherever possible. So that'd be great if you're waiting for us to appear in your player and we're not. Please let us know, and you can do that via visiting our website, appleslice.com.au. So yeah, just before we wrap this up, and is there anything else to add? I'm kind of just awaiting this invite in the next couple of days.
Yeah, we've been speaking about this, what's to come, for so long that I'm really sort of keen for it to arrive and to hear your thoughts and give my thoughts on what I'll be buying from what's actually released. Hopefully we see a little bit more about HomePod, because that's something I know for sure I'll be getting this year. So it's kind of, just excited to see what really happens at the end of the day and put all the speculation to rest.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes timing-wise for us, because as people may have realised, this episode has been delayed by a few days. So a couple of weeks from now is just before the supposed September 12 event date. So not really sure what's going to happen there. I'm sure we'll probably peel out a bonus bite or something like that. So there you go. All right. It's been good having a chat to you, Nick. And yeah, we'll catch you next time, hopefully just before all the products are announced.
Yeah. See you next time.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.